Warning. The following scenes may contain references to power pages and portals which some listeners may find disturbing, especially if you've struggled with poor training in the past. Hey all, Franco Musso here. Yes, I've hacked your podcast feed. I've held John and Mike hostage, but don't worry, I got my wires crossed and I'm actually paying them a small ransom in the form of sponsorship. Go figure. So, by popular demand, I'm cooking up 2 brand new offerings to help you get your Portal projects off the ground in 2024. The first is my group coaching program launching in March. Join me and a cohort of other budding Portal makers for live coaching sessions, weekly live training, office hours, Q&A and surgeries. I'll guide you through the process from zero to launch, all at a fraction of the cost of hiring a freelancer or a contractor. It's like having a trusted partner on hand, helping you avoid the pitfalls, saving you a ton of money, headache and time. Plus, you're bound to learn lots from others in the group as we discuss their experiences, challenges and solutions. To apply, head on over to francomusso.com/group-coaching. You can now take your fingers out of your ears and enjoy the awesome that is Sprint Zero.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 18 of the Sprint Zero podcast. My name is Lewis today, apparently, according to somebody on LinkedIn, and I'm here with my co-partner, Rat in Crime, John Russell. Say hello, John.
All right, Lewis. Oh, that's going to need a bit of explanation before we get into it. You're going to have to explain what's going on.
I just had a funny situation where somebody sent me a thing on LinkedIn. I won't go into what it was, and accidentally called me Lewis, and we had a bit of a laugh about it. So I
wonder what it was about.
So today we are joined by the one and only bearded legend, Parvez Ghumra. We have a lot of bearded people on here, don't we, John? Parvez is an excellent coiffured guy. You've written this with ChatGPT, haven't you, John?
Well done.
With extensive experience in the Power Platform, Dynamics, and Azure spaces. His favourite area being ALM, Application Lifecycle Management. And, I mean, somebody has to be that, right? Parvez has been the independent contractor in this space since 2013. Parvez, welcome to the Sprint Zero podcast. How are you doing?
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I'm doing really well, actually. Really good to be on the show. Thank you for having me.
Nice. It's really nice to see you, Parvez. I don't know why, Parvez, but every time I see you, I always smile. I think it's just because I'm like, I just got such a love for your beard, and you're such a great human.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Thanks. Yeah, as I say, really good to be here. But don't start on the beard. I've seen far better beards than mine. I'm not going to take any credit for it at all.
Nice. I mean, it's really good that you're on here. I really appreciate it. So what we want to know first really is kind of your story. Like, how did you get to where you are now? How did you get into Power Platform, Dynamics, etc.?
Yeah, so my story actually goes back a long way if we're talking about technology. Basically started from childhood. I was I forced my dad to buy me a Commodore 64. We'd spend evenings playing games with my siblings. There's actually a funny story around that. So I was playing one evening and I had to go to the loo, and I got really far in this game and I had to go to the loo, so I paused the game. And I told my brother, don't play. I'm going to come back and finish it off because I was going to finish that game. So I went to the loo and I came back, and you can guess what happened. He'd actually continued playing the game and he'd lost it. And I totally blew a fit basically. And then I started effing and blinding and swearing at him, saying, why did you do this? And my dad, who was sitting downstairs, he heard it all, and he was the type of person, back in those days, bad language in the house or bad behavior just wasn't tolerated. my dad was quite hot-headed, so basically he grabbed the Commodore 64 and he threw it into the floor to the point that it just shattered. And it was basically yeah, those days were quite expensive as well.
Yeah.
So all the keys actually came out and stuff. And all of us siblings were just devastated because that was like the best thing that happened to us, and we just lost all of that in a moment. So I basically spent that night I spent that night putting that back together again. So all the keys I put back in, and I actually got it working again. So I was quite chuffed with myself. So
Nice.
that's where tech really started for me. And from that point onwards, I thought, you know what, this is what I want to be doing. So I went through school. I went
How
through
old were you,
college.
Parvez? How old were you, Parvez, when that happened?
So I was probably not even a teenager. I was probably about 12, I'd say.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool.
So
Cool.
it started from a very early age. But yeah, then I continued through school and college. I studied GCSE IT, which didn't really gel with me at the time because it was more about they basically um, only scratched the surface in terms of what they were teaching us. They taught us this is a word processor, this is a spreadsheet, and this is what you use it for. Never
Yeah.
really got into anything technical, really. And then I persevered with it still. And at sixth form, I studied computing. That's where I first learned programming in Pascal, and I loved it. Basically, I built a business management software effectively within Pascal. And then I went on to university to study computer science, and that gave me a plethora of experience in programming. So I learned the basics of web development, starting with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Then went on to Perl and PHP. So web applications effectively with a backend database, MySQL databases. And then I did a placement year whilst at university, and that's where I really got into Microsoft technology. So that was bespoke ASP.NET development in Visual Studio with backend databases and SQL Server. And that's at that point I decided, I want to take this as a career profession. So I went back to uni, finished my degree, and I tried to get back into ASP.NET development after graduating, but it was quite competitive at the time. I really struggled to find a role without much experience. So I ended up having to take a bit of a detour, and I worked for a large pharmaceuticals company doing data management and SAS programming and kind of database design, that kind of stuff, which was good. I mean, I learned quite a lot around that, but it still wasn't business applications development. And I wanted to kind of get back into that because it wasn't really relatable. So after a couple of years, I went back into .NET development, working for a consultancy. I built up some experience around that as a junior, worked my way up, and then by accident, I landed in dynamic CRM development, doing things like plugins and workflow activities and JavaScript for what was Dynamic CRM 4 at the time. But one of the complex projects I landed on was a custom web portal, ASP.NET based web portal, which was integrated with Dynamic CRM. So I was kind of able to use my background there and enter this new space of Dynamic CRM. And I've basically stayed with every version of the product since then as a developer and worked my way into senior development, design, architecture type stuff. And then more recently, I've built a kind of speciality in the ALM space using DevOps, Azure DevOps, and also more recently GitHub Actions as well for another client. So it's been a bit of a history that stayed with me for a very long time now.
Yeah. It's funny because I feel like almost every guest that we have on, they accidentally fall into Dynamics or accidentally fall into Power Platform.
Yeah.
It's just...
Do you think it's something related to do with? Is it something related to do with your passion and like it kind of ticks a box? Because that's kind of how it happened for me.
Yeah, I think there's a combination of issues there. So my background at the time was .NET development, so the role was sold to me as a .NET developer as well. And in those days, the platform obviously meant that you had to do a lot of coding to build something that was quite custom, and a lot of that involved
Yeah.
.NET development. And it was a bit of a niche. You couldn't find skilled CRM developers, so a lot of companies I found they bought in .NET developers and transitioned them into CRM development. And I've run into so many people who've made this sort of transitions, and it's so good to see now that the platform actually has evolved to an extent that you don't need much code. But people have stayed with the platform ever since.
No, I mean, it's a lot better than it was, but there are some instances where you do still need that code, but that gap is closing. So we've got low-code plugins that are like on their way in. Nathan Rose has talked about those quite a lot.
Yeah.
That's going to be... it's not going to replace everything, but I'm sure in time it will.
Yeah, 100%. That is, there's capabilities in there that have evolved over a period of time, and you can see that. You know, in the earlier versions, when things like business rules came out and real-time workflows came out, and you know, you were able to achieve more without writing code over a period of time, and that's got better and better with Power Automate now as well. So yeah, it's definitely going the right direction.
Yeah. So me and John last caught up with you in person was at the D365 and Power Platform user group over at Paddington. That was back in February. Were there any standout sessions from that user group that that really stuck with you? Any with two guys with beards at all?
Yeah. I was gonna say there's these two guys with beards who spoke about large language models and AI and stuff, and I can't remember their names. But yeah, that
was it us, Parvez?
Actually, yeah, now that you say that, he didn't look familiar.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. That was a really good session. I mean, I know you guys have done it in some virtual groups in different forums as well. But every time I see it, I never cease to be amazed. I mean, a lot of the AI stuff, I personally haven't got into it myself yet. But just seeing the end result of what's achievable is a total mic drop moment, and it's something that I'm always in awe of. You know. So that was definitely a good session. I think Sharon's session was quite good as well.
Yeah.
Talking about
it was good.
how the UI is evolving and some of the things that are changing in the first-party applications. That was good to see as well. But yeah, it's hard to pick out a single session. There's so much you learn at these sorts of events. So it's always a great place to be.
We're wishing Sharon a speedy recovery because of the time that we're actually recording this episode.
Yeah. It's good to say. Yeah, good thing. I hope she recovers well. I noticed at the user group, and while we were kind of like, we talked to a couple of people. Me and Mike talked to a couple of people, and I noticed I felt there was a bit of a shift to people wanting more technical demos and technical solutions, and more going deep into the technical side. And I've been to a few now, and that's the first time where I feel like there's like an evolvement of the kind of citizen developer into this kind of area where they now really want to understand the technicalities of it. Do you agree with that, Parvez?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you know, people talk about this whole low code thing, but when you just look at something like, for example, Power Automate, it's not totally no code. You still need to have a bit of knowledge around how, you know, data structures work, how logic branching works, for example, different types of connectors and the kind of inputs they expect and the outputs that they return and that kind of stuff. So even a citizen developer who doesn't have a background in programming or development, they're intrigued by this sort of stuff, and it's good to see because it's basically getting them to transition a step closer to what a pro dev is. So I think people are maturing and learning as the platform grows, and it's just amazing to see. I think definitely.
Yeah. And I wonder, John, as well, if the induction of AI has almost sped people along to want that more technical understanding.
Yeah, because maybe with AI, it's maybe easier to do things, but people actually want to know what's going on under the hood, and so that they can check that what Copilot or another AI solution is doing the right thing, and they need that technical understanding to be able to get to that point to make their own decision.
And I think that was definitely for our session when we were sort of quizzed on what's actually going on underneath. I think it was quite weird because there's not actually that much going on. We're just having a conversation with OpenAI and just capturing the responses. But it always seems like there's more going on than there actually is. And I mean, we were trying to convey that on the session, weren't we, when we were asked about it and tried to demonstrate it. But yeah, it's just... I don't know what it is.
It was Andrew Bibby's question, wasn't it, at the end?
Yeah.
And I think there was a couple of things going on there. Is that, like, obviously we've been really involved in it since like kind of end of October, beginning of November,
Mm.
and it's kind of matured with us. But we've also got to remember that it's sometimes the first time people are seeing stuff like that. So we have to kind of go back to that mindset where we were in November and tell a kind of arc of that story to get to where we are now, which involves the progression of it and also the technicality of it. And Andrew Bivy came up to me afterwards in the pub and he was like, "Oh, I hope you don't mind that question." And he was kind of like a bit apologetic. And I was like, no. That's the kind of question we need to be able to spark that in us to be able to provide those answers, because it's sometimes we don't think about it. Yeah.
Anyway, this podcast is all about Parvez, so...
Yeah, sorry, Parvez.
I mean, I totally agree. I mean, the platform, as I say, because it's evolved in this direction, it's making everyone intrigued and interested in understanding what the art of the possible is in using code, even if they're not going to be writing code themselves. How far can they take it? And I think that's something that's really interesting for me, because it's pushing the boundaries of what people are generally comfortable within, and pushing them outside of that comfort zone.
Yeah,
for sure. And like, for instance, I've been using Copilot recently to understand Liquid for portals, because I had a bit of downtime, and I've done exactly the same thing. Like I've asked it, and then I've gone away and really tried to work out what it's actually doing. So it's interesting. Yeah.
I mean,
I think it's good using AI to augment your learning.
Yeah, 100%. I for sure learn
Like that.
mostly being hands-on and understanding how things are done and how they work at the deeper level, and that's the best way I find I learn. So yeah, it's great.
Goes back to the Commodore 64, mate. There you go.
100%.
Exactly that.
Yeah. So actually, you know what? I want to know. Did you learn to write assembly on the Commodore 64?
No, I didn't. I think it had. I think it had. When you turned it on, it had like this blue screen, white text type interface where you could put in simple commands and stuff. So I remember reading the manual.
Commodore Basic, wasn't it?
Yeah. I remember trying to put in some commands in there and trying to do some cool things, but I never really got much. I got distracted by the games more than anything else.
Were they Commodore 64? Were they tape based, or were they floppy?
Yeah, it was. No, it was tape. I think when Street Fighter first came out, it took like 2 hours to load the game or something before you could play it. So it's crazy.
So for anyone listening who doesn't know the pain, you used to get games on audio cassette, and you would have to put the audio cassette into a player, press play, and type a command into the Commodore, or I think we had a Spectrum. Amstrad or Spectrum. Yeah. Okay, so we've got the Holy Trinity here. You'd have to put in a command and then press play on your audio player, and then wait for the tape to finish, and then wait for the computer to have processed all the audio to then actually play your game. And I remember playing Ghostbusters on the Spectrum. I think we were 2 seconds in, died, and then it had to load again. Took another what felt like 2 hours was probably actually about 5 minutes or something, but it was a painful time.
So I have a feeling both of you can know the answer to this, but do you know what Amstrad stands for?
Alan Michael Sugar Trading.
There we go. Very nice. Yeah, that was his foray into the PC world. Yeah, more like the brick world. I remember when I got a new one of those, and it had a built-on tape deck. And it was like the best thing I've ever seen. I was like, wow, I don't have to carry around 2 big things, just one massive thing.
I feel like we're getting distracted. Look.
Can you imagine the current generation having to work with that technology from that generation? Would they have the patience?
There's videos, isn't there, where people are showing kids tapes, and they're like, what's that? I haven't got a clue what that is. We're getting to the point where people are going to be looking at CDs in the same way.
Yeah,
I think we are, aren't we?
I think we're near. Yeah.
I mean, you don't get a CD player in a car anymore, do you? If you get a new car.
No.
I think we're getting distracted because, I mean, look at that beard. I feel like John's putting words into my mouth on these show notes. If you haven't met Parvez before, this guy's got one of the best beards I've ever seen. I feel like we said that to Dan Barber as well.
Yeah.
How do you keep it so well maintained?
Parvez is better. I'm saying it now.
I agree. Parvez is better. I think we've got Peter Rising coming onto the show at some point. He's got a massive beard, isn't he?
You're far too kind, guys. It's definitely hard. It's definitely hard work, and I've lost patience with mine quite a few times to the point I've actually just got rid of it because sometimes it gets awkward. It grows in different directions on both sides, so it doesn't even look symmetrical, and it gets quite bad. So yeah. But I made a special effort for you guys today because I knew I'd be on video, and I need to be able to.
Oiled up, are you? Conditioned.
Yeah. Is it looking good?
Yeah, it's looking fantastic.
It's looking good, Parvez.
To be fair, it actually looks good even when the video quality drops out as well.
If you talk about beards in the community, though, I think I've seen Julian Sharp. Have you met Julian?
I know who Julian Sharp is. Yeah.
His
that's a good beard.
So when you got frustrated and you shaved it all off, did you do what everyone else does and actually make yourself Lemmy from Motorhead for a little bit and just shave the middle down there and have this like massive handlebar mustache?
No. I just got so frustrated by it. I just got rid of it all, and I thought I'll try again in a few weeks. And I can never perfect the art. It's hard work. Sometimes it just gets to the point I just leave it to my barber. So I'll give it a few weeks. I'll go to one of those Turkish barber places and I'll pay him 20 quid or whatever it is, and it's amazing. They do a great job.
Yeah, I went there the other day, and there's a Turkish barber in Tring near where I live, and I went in there, and the guy took one look at me, and he went, "Full service." Okay, I got my nose done. I got my nose done, and I got my ears. He had like this thing that he kept like spraying with stuff, and then like kind of lighting it, and it was like a flamethrower. And I was like, "What are you going to do with that?" And he's like, "I'm going to put that on your ears."
Was it Links Africa?
I think if I did what Mike you said about like trimming my beard and just having this, I think I'm half thinking about doing it today when I go and do school pickup.
Oh, I did it to my wife during lockdown, and she was very angry with me.
My wife wouldn't let me out of the car. I'm really tempted. Do
it.
When's on the show?
Well, yeah, maybe tomorrow. No, I don't know. No, I'm going to leave it. I'm trying to grow it, and I need to get it shaped anyway. So anyway, Parvez, as you may be aware, we have this section called Uncomfortable Corner.
Sorry,
that's the chicken noise.
There we go.
Uncomfortable Corner.
Scary. So yeah, Parvez, when was the last time you felt uncomfortable? Whether that's in work, out of work, on a plane seat. Explain how you felt and kind of what you did to kind of alleviate the situation, and maybe what you learned from it for next time.
Yeah, that's a hard one. I'm forever feeling uncomfortable. It's something that happens so often. It's hard to pick out one example. I mean, one of the more recent one was at work actually. So I was brought into my current project for my experience with ALM for Power Platform. But my experience was in Azure DevOps, but they had an internal kind of strategy to use GitHub Actions for their ALM strategy, and I had zero experience with it. But obviously, as a contractor, sometimes there's an expectation that you can come in and hit the ground running. The problem is the platform is so big and there's so many different options available. It's impossible for everyone to know everything. So it's one of the things that I have experience of, and the way I approached it, I said, this is not something I know, but based on my past experience, I can spend some time learning it. I can pick it up, and I can do a good job of it. And luckily for me, they were happy to kind of allow me the opportunity to learn it, and then I was able to build something which has worked for them, and it's doing wonders for them, and I was really pleased with it. And I had a similar experience with Power Pages as well. On the same client, they wanted me to lead a Power Pages project without any prior experience of Power Pages. So again, I found that honesty was the best policy again, and I spent some time learning it. I found some resources, and we've been able to kind of make productive use of it and build the functionality that's required. So I think with anything really, honesty is best policy. You got to be upfront, and sometimes it can work for you, sometimes it can't. I mean, if there's pressures on delivering some stuff quickly, you'll find that the client is not always willing to give you that opportunity to learn. But you have to do what you have to do for the project, and they'll find other ways to fulfill their needs. And that I've also been in that situation as well. So it can go either way, really.
Yeah, and I think it's important to sort of know your limits as well when because a lot of us do have to learn on the job. We don't always get the time to know everything before a client requirement comes up to us. It's normally that the requirement comes up and then we have to learn there and then. Sometimes you've got to do it very quickly. And sometimes it might be something where you go, actually, you know what, I don't think I'm going to be able to master that and be able to deliver a product in that like short time frame and also learn it myself. So sometimes it's better for someone else to take that on as well. So yeah, I completely understand what you're saying there. And it can take a lot to admit that as well sometimes. A lot of us want to be the best that we can be at this job and we want to know everything. And I mean, especially with a Power Platform, you can't because you're being expected to be a full front end and back end developer essentially. If you have to do everything, and a full web stack developer and everything, and be a .NET developer, like there's no way. You always find a niche, right?
Yeah,
but it's always good to have that understanding of the wider platform.
Yeah, 100%. That's something else that makes me uncomfortable as well. You know, saying no to somebody, it's hard. And you have to find a nice way to do it. And I think Mark Smith's 90-day mentoring challenge, one of the books recommended in there, talks about strategies for having those sorts of difficult conversations. And I think it's a good skill to have. So it's something that I need to definitely get better at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how are you doing with the 90-day challenge and some of those challenges?
I'm a bit behind at the moment because work has been a bit crazy recently. I've got a couple of weeks to catch up on. But I think we're coming close to the end of it. So I think, as I said, in that group as well, I think it's a lifelong investment. It's just something that's going to keep going. There's no end to it, really. You have to kind of keep doing it and keep getting better at it.
Yeah, because I think you get moved into the alumni at the very end, don't you? So you're still still within the group, and I can't remember if you still have access to the content afterwards as well. I'm pretty sure you do.
You do,
it's something that's always there.
Yeah.
And how have you found the challenge? Like the whole thing? Like, have you? What are the key things that you've taken away from that?
I think it's definitely offered me the opportunity to reflect on where I've taken my career. I mean, the reason why I signed on was because I felt like my career had kind of stagnated. I'd done everything that I wanted to do in terms of career ambitions. When I started, I've done the whole independent contractor thing. I've built up years of experience with the platform. I just didn't know where else I could go. So it was an opportunity for me to just reflect on that and explore the different other options that are available given where I am right now. Just having that opportunity to talk to other people around the world as well, and there's some MVPs who are doing it as well. So there's just having access to people like that is I think it's a great thing to be.
Yeah, it's awesome. I've definitely enjoyed it, and I think for me, I've talked about this before. I accidentally became a consultant. I didn't really understand what being a consultant was, but I just almost just sort of like not made up my own rules, but just did the best that I could and did what I thought was right. But even just the book recommendations, right? That's completely transformed how I approach my work, how I engage with customers, how I manage my time and everything. It's definitely been it's been a turning point in my career for sure.
100%.
That's really good. Pretty good. I mean, he is very good at what he does, Mark Smith. I'm quite
It's
impressed
really
with how much he does.
It's like a community. It's like there's such a diverse range of people in that group as well. You see people who've got such a varied level of experience and what background they come from. Just engaging with that varied audience is just something amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you said that you would kind of continue. Do you both think that you will kind of continue learning on that front? Is there more courses? Would you go on it again? Would it be the same experience if you went on it again?
So I think what Mark's mentioned a few times, that he's been running this a few years, and every time he kind of refreshes the content. So people who've gone on it again, they've said they've always come back and learned something new, whether that's the new kind of cohort that they engage with or the actual content as well. So yeah, there's definitely benefit in revisiting the actual course itself. But as Mike was saying, you've got access to that entire content of the course as well for the foreseeable future without having to pay again, without having to join a cohort again. So that's something amazing as well.
I think for me, it's really opened my eyes to reading more as well. I was historically somebody who didn't read a lot, but I've read, I think, 5 or 6 books now this year. That was all the ones this year were purely recommendations from the 90-day challenge. I did read We Would Make the Boat Go Faster last year. I really enjoyed it, and I don't actually know why I didn't read more after I did that. But it was good to digest that. But I think the 6 books that I've read, it may be 6, I can't remember. The ones that I've read this year already, I still remember them. I still remember the content. I'd like to be able to apply that to like the way I work and whatnot. And it's definitely opened my eyes to that genre of books. I would say it's like self-help, business help books. Find them really interesting now, whereas I probably wouldn't have a little while ago. So
I'm reading a book at the moment. I can't remember exactly what it's called. It's about how to tell a story by a guy called Will Storr. That's really good. Because you put me onto Vinted for getting books. I completely didn't realise you could get books off Vinted.
I'll tell you what else you can get off Vinted.
Changer.
I'll tell you what else you can get off Vinted is a microphone for a podcast.
Yes, you can. Is that a hint? What are you trying to say? Is my microphone not very good?
No, I think your microphone sounds fine, but my microphone was trash until I upgraded it.
Yeah. How much did you pay for it?
20 quid.
Yeah, that's a result.
Yeah.
Nice. Right, Parvez, thank you very much for coming on the podcast, coming on the show. We really, really appreciate you taking the time. You can find Parvez on LinkedIn, on his XRM Solutions UK website and his blog there. He's also on X or Twitter or whatever it's called at the moment. Links to resources mentioned in this episode will be in the show notes. Music was provided by Ken Like Fit, and you can find his music on Spotify. Again, link's going to be in the show notes. Additional music, the chickens and the screaming thing and all that, that's also going to be in the show notes. Please be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss the next episode. We are, I think, about 2 away from 500. We might even just be on 500. So
I'm gonna wait. Hold that thought, John. I'm gonna check now.
Oh yes, 501.
Oh, 501. Nice.
Yes, get in.
Round
of applause to us. So yeah. We'd really appreciate if you give us a follow on LinkedIn. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we'd really appreciate a review and a follow on your chosen podcast platform. Thank you very much for joining us on Sprint Zero. We've been Mike Gowland. Say goodbye, Mike.
My name's Lewis, but yeah, goodbye, Lewis.
Yeah, see you, Lewis. Parvez. Say goodbye, Parvez.
Cheers, Punky. Thanks, guys.
Nice one, bud. All right, thanks for coming. And I'm John, and we will see you on the next episode of Sprint Zero. Bye.
Cheers. Take care.
Bye. Love you, John.
Love you too. Love you, Parvez.
Warning. The following scenes may contain references to power pages and portals which some listeners may find disturbing. Especially if you've struggled with poor training in the past. Hey all, Franco Mosso here again. Quick update on that hostage situation. Hopefully the smell isn't coming across the airwaves. I haven't let the guys use the bathroom yet, so the joke's definitely on me. Anyway, big announcement. I'm finally releasing my online Power Pages course. This has been 5 years in the making. It's tried and tested on citizen devs and portal makers all around the world. It's the course I wish existed when I was getting started. It's practical, it's hands-on, and it's project-based, so you're not wondering how the heck this would apply to the real world. I've built in battle-tested lessons I've learned from tens of successful portal projects across various industries, budgets, and geographies, and I've formulated the most efficient route from zero to heroic launch. The tools and techniques I've chosen to show you are all based on what adds the most value to you, the learner, and to your customers, all in the most compressed timeline possible. Think 80-20, focusing on the techniques that punch above their weight and deliver the majority of results. You'll get video lessons, a repeatable framework, and some super helpful worksheets. Visit francomosso.com/power-pages-course and register your interest. Disclaimer, this course isn't for you if you prefer hours of slides, theory, and little to no action. You can now take your fingers out of your ears and enjoy the awesome that is Sprint Zero.